Record. All right, so we are going to continue with just get this set up. Rid of that, get rid of that. And get rid of that. Give me 1 second. All right, so we left off. We were talking about the rigid and flexible piping. So my theory behind this whole flexible and types of rigid pipe is I noticed that all these pipes that they listed was clay, casted iron, concrete pipe, and asbestos. You know that those kinds of pipe. I mean, if you were to put like a hydraulic stamp on it, that thing would shatter right away. But looking at these other ones, ductile iron, it would probably just fold it in half. So I think that's where the flexibility side of everything comes in on that certainty. When it's buried in everything, it has that way of being able to flex to a certain pressure. But yeah, I was reading that this morning. I just thought I'd bring it up. But so moving on. So keep in mind, our sanitary sewers are designed to transport waste and wastewater to the wastewater treatment plant. Get rid of this. The wastewater treatment plant for handling and disposal in most cases. For handling and disposal. In most cases, sanitary sewers are designed to work on gravity flow. Water runs downhill. Unfortunately, it is not always possible for sanitary sewers to run downhill to wastewater treatment plants. Sometimes topography will prevent this natural occurrence. How do you get water to go uphill? The answer, of course, is pumping. I think we read this. We have a pumping station or a lift station. Pumping stations are a large lift station. The intent of these stations is to lift the water up to a point where gravity can once more be used to transport the wastewater to a given point. A forced main will pump wastewater. These stations perform the same function as a sump pump in a residence, but on a much larger scale. So once wastewater reaches a wastewater treatment plant, it goes through many stages of treatment before the water is returned to the environment. There are different types of treatment plants, but it is not necessary to discuss these in detail. The key to the proper functioning of a treatment plant is to keep certain types of bacteria alive while they perform certain functions. The two main bacteria in wastewater treatment plants are aerobic and anaerobic bacteria. Aerobic bacteria operates in the presence of oxygen. An anaerobic bacteria operates in an absence of oxygen. Facultative bacteria is a third type that can live also with or without oxygen. We all know in an aerobic, we've seen these on some commercial properties that they have their own way of treating their sewage. I mean, does it all still go to the treatment plant, Ken, after it's treated?
You talking in a municipality, yeah?
Yeah. So like Malakai, they treat their own.
So they're pumping into a injection well. So they treat their waste, and then they inject the treated sewage into an injection well. That's the big talk right now, right? On pollution in the ocean water and stuff, and they feel that the injection wells are a big cause of all the bacteria that's now floating around in our ocean. Um, that's a whole different conversation. But to answer your question, it's treated through a treatment plant, very similar to what the county does as far as a treatment plant, just on a smaller scale. And then it is done with aerobic pumps. So they got air just forced into the bacteria, creating it to thrive. And then by the time it reaches its last destination, which is being injected into the injection well, it's not like you can go and drink it, but the level of bacteria in it is it's almost untraceable. And so that's the answer to that. It's the same thing with the county. They release all their treated water into the ocean. Everybody knows that, right? And so the level of treatment is important, and making sure that by the time it is released, it is the level of bacteria that's in it is at a minimum.
Yeah, so that aerobic system, there's all these bubbles that you see coming up in the tank. So those bubbles they're that air is used to just keep bacteria alive, right? To help the breakdown process faster.
It makes it thrive. So it's like fuel, like fire.
Like
fire.
A fish tank.
Exactly. So fire requires air, to fuel it. That's what creates it to become even hotter. It's very similar, in that sense, where you're forcing the bacteria to have its like perfect environment, and having that environment with the air, being created like that creates it to grow at a rate where if it was stagnant, wouldn't grow as quick. So the treatment is a lot faster and a lot more efficient.
Yeah. See, I always thought that the air and everything that was introduced to those tanks was just to agitate sewer and keep it moving around. But, there is that reason of, keeping that bacteria alive to help the breakdown process easier when it's treated. So the basic stages that wastewater goes through at wastewater treatment plants is the screening process, which solids like rocks and trash are removed from the wastewater. Coarse screen remove the big materials. Fine screens remove the smaller debris. Second process is the grit removal, which is sand, coffee grounds, cigarette filters are also an example of these items that are removed. Primary sediment tanks, wastewater passes to a holding tank to enable heavier suspended solids to settle and lighter items like grease to float, but are removed from the wastewater. Secondary settling tank. These allow particulates which will flock or join together or to settle out. Tertiary systems, yeah. Treatments allow nutrients, residual organics, or residual solids to be removed. And then, of course, the disinfection is a disinfectant like chlorine or sodium is added to kill pathogenic organisms. So from there, the sludge is dewatered. It can be landfilled, land spread, or it can be heat dried and incinerated. The treated water is returned to navigable waterway. Remember, in most cases, the liquid in sanitary sewers is 99.9% water and 1% solid. So the 1% solids still contain, the potential for illness and diseases that must be carefully handled. So that's why they tell you not to drink the reclaimed water, because you still have that. You can drink it, but if you don't mind the extra toll,
It tastes shitty.
exactly. So when your kids running around in the sprinklers at the mall, it's not good. So, okay, let's move on to the many main ways in which sanitary sewers fail and see how a person involved in cleaning municipal sewers systems can deal with those problems. On the most significant problem a municipal sewer cleaner must handle is root intrusion in a sanitary sewer. So we've all seen that, how roots get into our drains. They are probably the worst to deal with. Trees, by their nature, are attached to water, attracted to water and nutrients for growth. Sanitary sewers contain both water and nutrients, items essential to the well-being of trees. Because the temperature of wastewater is slightly higher than the ambient air, condensation can appear at the top of the sewer pipe. When there are cracks or breaks, the water attracts trees in the area, and trees attempt to get to the source of water and nutrients. Misaligned pipes or cracks in the pipes are the best access points. So no matter what, roots are going to find their way anywhere they want to get. Once the roots has entered through an opening, it grows by adding one cell at a time to the end of the root. The root will expand and will hang like a curtain-like fashion, causing a buildup of grease and debris. Septic pools can form, causing odors and even production of hydrogen sulfide. Roots can be cut out of a sanitary sewer with a rotor or a high velocity water jetter with a root cutter attachment. Short-term immediate relief will be provided. However, sanitary sewers and managers are looking for long-term relief. So this next part here is they're talking about spraying roots with a solution of copper sulfate, which may work if roots remain in contact with chemical long enough. In the past, contractors put copper sulfate in the water tank of a high pressure water jet and jetted the sewer. Copper sulfate, however, is toxic and can be an imbalance in the sanitary sewer system. It is not permitted in certain locations. Today, a chemical herbicide is mixed with water and put through a sewer, usually in a foam. In some applications, a 2-inch to 3-inch hose is positioned between manholes. As the hose is retrieved through the pipe, the herbicides is pumped into pipe, completely filling it. This procedure is designed to retard roots growth for at least a year. Connie, we have a root treatment that we use here. What is the name of that besides the Rootex?
Vapor rooter.
Vapor rooter. Yeah.
I could say something about that.
Yeah. Let's explain our what we have and what we provide.
Well, Oahu has it also, right? Has anybody used it on Oahu? The vapor rooter? No? I'll say that's no. Is Brandon R on this? Trying to look.
Yep.
So Brandon R and myself, we've gone to a job site. It's up in, I would say, Makawao. And he's a contractor, Yokoyama Construction. And he has a leach field, leach after his septic tank is his leach field, where he's had roots grow all into the leach field. So what we did was, and this is right at the beginning of our vapor rooter, experience, I would say. We cabled out all the roots, took out, piles and piles and piles of roots, and then ran the vapor rooter. And it was kind of funny because you calculate it according to the distance and length of pipe and, time frame and contact time. There's a little equation that you put together. But what I didn't and what we didn't calculate when we first started was we're dealing with perforated pipe. So I was at the end trying to wait for the vapor rooter to come out and it never came out, but it was all going into the ground. But long story short, we've been doing this vapor rooter treatment on this leach field. When we went back 6 months after, what, Brandon, was it 6 months?
Yeah, just about 6 months.
Man, what would you say the reaction was or the result was of the vapor rooter?
So when we initially cameraed, we saw roots still. So we were thinking, oh goodness, it's still there. But when I actually started pulling back my camera, I noticed those same roots that looked like they were healthy were just all dead. They were just disintegrated. It almost like crumbled. So we just ended up jetting out all that debris, and that line was pretty much free and clear right after that.
And so how often are we going back to Clyde's?
I think we're doing it once a year. I think we just went back.
Yeah, and he did not want to dig up this his leach field. It's a big leach field for a pretty decent sized property, and the location of it is a pain in the ass. Everything's a pain in the ass with this thing. So, as far as that system working, we know firsthand that it works.
So I see Justin Alcos, Christopher, and Daniel. I see you guys cameras on. You guys aware of that system there? The vapor rooter?
I only use the Rudex, the powder one, where it foams up. I haven't got to try that style yet.
Probably need to have a retraining. It's been probably about 3 or 4 years since we've trained in vapor rooter usage and the application. Technically, you need to have on staff somebody with a pesticide license, and Brandon R is a person on staff who does have a pesticide license, gives us the ability to be able to purchase the product. But at the end of the day, application of the product is fairly simple. However, there are safety precautions and things that you guys must take, and you must be able to know how to be able to apply it so that you're safe and everything else. So we should probably get retrained in all of that at some point.
I have a question.
Okay.
So, Connie knows about this. I have a job, La Pietra. They have a lot of roots. It's a manhole to manhole. There's about 6 manholes on the property. It's a private property. Like every joint, there's roots intrusion coming in. So I go there once a year, hydrojet with the root cutter. I think we brought up to the guy about this stuff. I don't know what's the outcome on it.
So just so that you're clear on what's happened, it's an 8-inch line that we're dealing with at La Pietra, and the size of the line gives us a challenge because we do not have the pump or the equipment to fit that size of line. And so because of that, it's not like just sprinkling on vapor rooter, right? Vapor rooter has got to foam up, it's got to travel down. And unless we're willing to, let's just say, tackle in a bigger scale and make that, part of, a huge business or a good portion of our business, the upfront investment for the device is at least at this particular point, something that Steve has not decided to go and purchase. So that's where we are with that one. So until we can acquire that pump size, I don't think we'll be going down the vapor rooter road with them at this point.
Yeah, when we first was entertaining the vapor rooter potential, I actually saw it on Oahu at BEI. That's the chemical place where we get all the product from. and the vapor rooter representative was there. And man, the size of the pump and unit that it takes to get into like an 8-inch line. And when you start dealing with that, you're going like you said, Bennett, from mantle to mantle. So you got to understand, like our class stated, I think prior, mantle to mantle distances are usually about 300 feet, right? So if you're 300 feet, 8-inch line, you got to assume the volume of product you need to consume that size of pipe requires kind of like a jetter. You think about it, you're not going to go use a brute jetter to go jet an 8-inch line, right? You're going to go take the larger jetter because of volume. So everything has, kind of an equation. It's the same thing, so the amount of product and the amount of force it's going to take to consume and fill that pipe to be effective is kind of big. I think Connie brought this to us at one time, and we're trying to entertain this on how to use our system with the jetter to come up with an equation. And man, we were thinking about all kind of crazy shit for a little while. 55-gallon drums, and I'm pretty sure this is the one that he was talking about when it came up. With the jetter, I'll tell you, we have used the Rudex kind of in that way when we did the Sheraton. Connie, you got to talk to Park about that. Park is the one, yeah, for Rudex.
Park is the one for Rudex, yeah.
Yeah. So what he ended up having us do, I swear, we had I want to say Josh, you remember that when we did the Rudex up at Sheraton? Because it was an 8-inch line. And we ended up lining over it. It was a clay pipe, same thing. So like every 5 feet, you had roots entering the joints, right? And so the scope was to go kill the roots first with the Rudex, and then we lined over it, and it was about a 230 foot, 250 foot distance of pipe from mantle to mantle that we went. And it allowed us to use the jetter with the Rudex to fill up and consume the pipe. So there is a way to do it with the Rudex. I just don't know. And like Connie said, the vapor rooter is different because it's an applicator that is pumped into the system versus the Rudex is when it hits water, it fills up, So a certain amount will fill up. It's just a large amount, and you just got to get it like in a different scale, and you're using the jetter with it. Are you Rudex with jetty?
No,
Just jetty.
just jetted. Yeah.
Okay.
The root cutter.
Okay.
And
go
the
ahead.
other thing too, though, is that the difference between Rudex and vapor rooter, they are not the same. The chemical, I don't want to say chemical because what is that? The poison content in vapor rooter is significantly greater than it is in Rudex. I don't know what the
Well, Brandon might know.
Brandon probably does know.
Brandon, what's the difference? Do you know?
The difference between the Rudex and the vapor rooter?
Yes.
So vapor rooter has two chemicals, metam sodium and dikebinol, and Rudex is just dikebinol.
And that one chemical is the one that would require you to have that license because of what? How much more poisonous it is? I mean, what makes it?
The metam sodium one, when you mix it, releases toxic fumes versus the dikebinol. It doesn't really do the same, but dikebinol is more of a retardant than a killer. So that's why the vapor rooter is better, because the metam sodium kills and then the dikebinol goes and retards the growth.
Oh, educated.
Yeah.
Educated.
Thank you.
So
You
maybe
went level, I think.
One get two poisons, one get one.
Yeah, so maybe we can get a little demonstration on the vapor. Or maybe I'll get with Brandon and Ken, and we can put something together at the shop, and then that way we can kind of just educate everybody on how that thing. Because I guess we've all heard that it does work, and as long as it's the proper steps are taken, to be safe and everything using those things, because they are harmful chemicals. So I'll set something up with them, and then we can put together a little video on how to use it and stuff like that. Going back to Bennett's question about this the root intrusion. while we're in this subject, how long have you guys been maintaining that drain?
6 years.
6 years.
6 years, yeah.
Oh. And is this what kind of property is this? Hotel?
No, it's houses on a private property.
Like a gated community kind
Yeah.
of a thing. A dual complex, kind of like a Kapalua Golf Estates kind of a thing in town.
Have
I
we
think-
ever? Sorry,
I
go
think
ahead,
they
Ken.
were offered to line, but that's not what they want to do. You know, because I think the way they're looking at it is like if your bid for lining is like say 50 grand, they're thinking in themselves like, Bennett, what are you charging every year when you go and deal with it?
It's about almost $2,000.
Yeah. So how many years does it take to get up to that 50 grand? And that's how they're looking at it. So they're just maintaining it, and it's not getting worse. It's not fracturing their pipe. They're just getting, the root hair entering. And so Bennett goes in and cleans it out and maintains it, and guys, this is truly another approach. And I know what direction Josh was going. He's like, well, why don't we just fix it?
Yeah.
And that's always truly the first option. But, that's why you got to have all these other, options, because people think differently, right? If it's going to cost me 50 grand to fix it, well, cool. Then I don't have to go maintain it. But big deal. If I got to go maintain it, somebody do the math. How many years does it take for 2 grand to get to 50?
Yeah.
Was that like 20?
Because I thought I heard him say there was 6 manholes that he had to go through, and that's some footage to cover in a day.
Yeah.
I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if it took like 3 days to do that
Sure.
maintenance, but
So yes, I understand.
so if
yeah.
it's 2 grand, then
Yeah.
how much time do you spend on that
More than
Bennett?
$2,000.
All day.
all day?
Yeah.
And just one day to do that one maintenance for all those manholes?
Yeah. So
How
now,
how
before
ahead.
it wasn't too bad. Now it's getting to where the tie-ins that didn't have roots come through, it's coming through. So
sorry,
his
what was that? So the tie-ins that had roots don't have roots?
Opposite.
I mean
Is
the
it?
Oh,
points and the joints that didn't have roots the past 3 years, now they're having roots too coming through at the joints.
So you're
And
noticing a greater root intrusion, which is going to happen.
yeah,
Over time, if we're just using cutting or
cutting, that's
using
it.
jetting to be able to cut the roots kind of like your beard or whatever. More often you cut it, the bigger it gets. The larger in diameter it gets, and eventually it'll become where they're going to have to face it at
Yeah.
some point.
But are you? Of course, you're cameraing, and that's how you're knowing that this is happening.
Yes.
And it's getting to this point. Has anybody gone back with them and said, hey, you guys might want to start considering, maybe doing sections at a time, as you start going forward in a permanent repair? Because, at what point does it become an issue where, okay, now we can't even do a maintenance on it, and now you got to go dig it up?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
now you can still maintain it, clean it, get it prepped, ready for lining.
Yeah.
There may come a point where the roots get to the so infested in where it starts creating fracturing and misalignments, and then now you got to go dig everything up.
Yeah. So
Yeah, the nice thing that Ken had said, like you said, not everybody thinks the same, but the nice thing about having those things like the vapor rooter and the Rudex is it gives you a way to stay in with the customer long term until the time comes where you have to do what eventually we suggested all along. So it puts a fence around your customer, which is a big plus if you guys can think like that. We don't have to do that work today. It'd be great if we could, but if we could also keep and retain them as a customer and solve their problems for now, eventually we will get that root canal.
yeah. And what kind of pipe is this that we're dealing with?
Clay.
Pipe.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And
So
every 10 feet there's a tie-in.
right. A joint. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 6 years, that's a pretty long time. Now you're saying, now it's, more, we're getting more root intrusion. And so, yeah, so we got to remember that, while we're in this root section of the class, we have multiple ways of dealing with um things like this, which is lining, coating, digging repairs, and bursting. We have the vapor rooter thing, and we got to take advantage of all these things that we have. I mean, if we need to be trained in certain areas, I mean, we're willing to do all that stuff, but we got to make sure that we're using every single tool that we've got available. I mean, here on Maui compared to Oahu, wait, um, I'm not too sure on what the extent is on what people do in Oahu on drain repairs, trenchless style, but on Maui, we're pretty much the guys they call on dealing with, because we were the first to bring it to the islands, which was the lining part, the coating part. I'm not sure if Steve was the first to bring the bursting part of it to the islands, but the experience that Allen's Plumbing has on Maui, I mean, we've been able to see certain stages in the growth on how all this trenchless stuff works, from pulling in place to inverting it, or using the can and stuff like that. We've all been through all this, so we've seen and what is what process can be used in certain situations. I mean, there's tons of different ways, and we really take advantage of that here. And I know Daniel is the lining guy there, so I mean, if you guys need any type of help or training on things like that, I mean, don't hesitate. It is a very meticulous, and some people get afraid of doing certain things, but we went through those same stages as, like, I don't know if we want to shoot liner or this and that, but that was in our early days. Now it's like, if we mess it up, we know how to deal with it. We know when to stop, when to keep going. It's just it takes the repetition to get comfortable with it. So we just take advantage of all these things that we have. I mean, since we're dealing with roots, on what we can provide, and dealing with certain situations. Maya, Preston, Mark D is now lining. Jun is also on that lining crew, but Maya and Preston, they've all been through the days of, and Justin also, of just our fails, and you got to fail to succeed. I mean, I've collapsed the liner in the whole house, had to dig it all up, but that's how you learn. There's no reason to be afraid of. I know it was tough, but when you got the owner of the company telling you to, while I'm running with my head cut off around this job site, Steve pulled me on the side, and I'll never forget it. This line collapsed, and it was my first liner job. The whole line collapsed in the drain. And what happened was the customer flushed while we were in the curing process. And when we went to pull everything out, of course, the liner was, was completely closed. There's no way of getting that thing out of there. So, and it was like 4:30 in the afternoon when then we found out that happened. Everybody showed up to my job. Richard Hart, Narada, all the guys showed up to try and help me, try and get this liner out. We couldn't. So, Steve Allen shows up at 7:30, and I'm running around trying to get guys whatever they need to try and make this work. He grabs me by the arm. He's like, "Hey, you need to relax. Shit happens. We just gotta, take care of it. I want you to relax." Steve made me feel like it was okay, but now we just got to deal with it. It wasn't okay in his mind, but he just wants to let us know that we got to fail to succeed. And that made me feel a little bit more confident in going forward in lining and things like that. So Steve put these customers up in a hotel for the couple of nights. We dealt with the floor. We had to cut up the whole house and get it repaired. It was a nightmare, but it took that to really keep pushing me. if we had a guy behind us, screaming screaming at us, we're not going to want to deal with something like that. But you know, Steve Steve Allen, he has faith in all of his equipment. He has faith in his guys, and that was just something that really pushed me to keep going with this stuff. I mean, to keep learning and keep doing it, because there's still new things out there that we don't even know about. Every year that we go to this show, we see these tools. It's just like, holy crap! Like, I didn't even know that thing existed. But then you think about, applying it to what you do every day. Is like, wow, we could have used that, or that would be awesome to take back. That's what we're always bringing back, these things to try them out. And we were the first ones to bring coding to Hawaii when it started. So Steve is always staying ahead of the game. He likes new things, as long as they're they work and they make sense. So the other thing is, we also have D scales. Steve has a machine that he helped invent. It's a D scale machine that's made by the guys who make our snakes. I think the cable that's on it's about 150 feet. Is that right, Preston? I think you were using it the other day.
I'd say
Right.
more like 120. You're muted, Press.
Oh,
Yeah, I think there's less than 100 feet on there, but it works really well.
Did we cut it?
no,
Yeah,
we've never.
cut it, I think once at Mahina Surf.
Yeah, I think
But,
originally it was set for 100 or 120 feet. The idea
Yeah.
was to be able to get from one spot to, be able to deal with
Yeah, I think it
multiple.
works really well.
But yeah, so this machine that Steve and the quadruplex guy put together, it's almost double the speed of what the Pacote can do. The cable is made with the cable that's used on our snakes. It's wound in two different directions. It's also got a center core on it, so you can go backwards, you can go forward with this thing, and the tension on it, the way that the motor on it, it's a DC motor, so it locks up when it feels tension, so it won't let you tangle up on it. But the high speed that the speed that we're getting out of this machine, it cleans pipes like crazy. It's kind of scary, but we got to remember that our machines aren't made to break pipe. It's there to do its job, which is cleaning it, taking out roots. But I know Steve is still working on smaller machines for it, but we do have the prototype here on Maui. We've used it. It works. There's a couple things that we need to change, like the pedal is not too comfortable to work with, but the speed you can get out of that thing and cleaning drains. I mean, it almost took half the time to do let's just say 100-foot drain takes 2-3 hours using the Pacote. When you're using this machine, it could take you like an hour and a half. You can blitz through that thing no problem with the speed that you get dealing with this new machine that Steve's got. And it takes out roots. It takes out, I mean, we've done reinstatements with it. It's a great machine. I mean, what's your experience with it, Preston?
Yeah, it's fast, strong. It's just big, it's bulky to get into a room. But yeah, the thing works great.
Yeah, it is a big,
Just need a smaller model, maybe.
yeah, it is a big machine. It's about, I would say it's about almost 5 feet tall.
Yeah.
And it's about 4 feet wide. And 2 feet, the reel is about 2 feet, comes out about 2 feet. So it is a huge machine. It is heavy, but the idea behind it is working. So I like the speed that comes out of it, and the efficiency it does on cleaning drains. Because when we're doing projects and stuff, we're spending days on just descaling drains to line or coat. When we put that machine in the drain, man, it just took time away. Or saved us time, I should say. So let's just get through this next part real quick. So we went through on how we can, so another problem which exists in municipal sanitary sewers is low spots or sags in the sewer pipe. And we all know, we've all seen that. It's called, we call them bellies here. Or the sags in the pipe is what, it's a low spot that can result from poor bedding, improper backfill, or the settling of the ground. Because flow is restricted in a pipe with a low spot, settling of debris and silt will develop. During heavy rains, these blockages can result in sewer backups. And the use of high velocity water jets can reopen the pipe on temporary basis. The only permanent solution in the installation of a new is the installation of a new section of sewer with the proper grade. So dealing with bellies, sags in the drains, when we're laying a drain, everybody knows how to, shade a pipe or, properly bed a pipe before, running it in the ground or burying it. So if it's not done properly, you end up with sags over time or bellies in your pipe, which, causes settlement or whatever water to build up in that certain area. Toilet paper gets stuck in there, and after time toilet paper builds up and then you have this huge blockage in there. So in those
You
types
said, Josh, you said that everybody knows, but does everybody know? That is a question. Because I'll tell you, when you have a 20-foot length of, let's just say ABS or PVC, and let's just say it's hanging on a rafter or somewhere stored or on your vehicle, and you take it to a job site, a lot of times there's this thing that lays in it, and it's called a crown, and it's how the pipe sags over time and over length if it's not supported properly, right? So if you're to take it and put it on a flat piece of ground and roll it 100, in a full circle, you'll find sometimes that there is a belly already in it, and the proper way to lay that pipe in the ground would be on its side versus on its back, not thinking when you install it, because what you just did was install a pipe with a belly in it right from the beginning, and it's really important to understand that before installing a pipe.
Yeah, so yeah, sure. What Ken's saying. So sometimes you buy PVC or ABS is the worst, I should say. You leave it out in the sun while you're, digging up your trench. What's happening is that pipe is starting to take form of what the ground is. So if you got a pretty good sag in it, the way they want you to lay it, instead of laying the sag this way in the pipe, they have you turn it on its side, and now the sag is sideways, and now all you do is straighten out while you're in the trench. So never lay the sag on its back or on the high spot of it. You want to just put it on your side and then just straighten it out from there. And then also bedding the pipe, making sure that the ground is it's compacted under the drain, always using your level as you're moving down the drain. And as you lock in your your 1/4 inch, secure that pipe, bury that section, and then that way you just keep moving back on yourself. Because if you got to keep chasing your grade back and forth, it gets to a point to where you're gonna have to keep digging it up, moving dirt. So it's always good to get your trench. I always like digging my trench 2 to 3 inches deeper than it has to be. That way it gives me room to put some piles down in the trench, and then now you can start your grade and everything like that. And as you're putting in full sections, secure that full section of pipe first before moving on to your next glue fit or your next joint or stuff like that. But and we can go over that a lot of that later. But that is the one way of how bellies are created, is that they're not installed correctly. I mean, it could be fine when it's put in, but over time, because the ground that was under it wasn't, bedded or packed in right, starts to settle there, or it starts to move, and that's what creates these bellies. So dealing with bellies, that's something that we would have to dig up and just correct the grade. I mean, we see guys here lining bellies, we see guys here bursting belly, doing things. I mean, you could burst a belly, I mean, as long as it's not too crazy, but I mean, we see guys, and that comes with training and everything and knowing what you're doing is that you're not gonna line a pipe that's bellied because all you're doing is you're just making the belly slicker. I mean, yeah, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but it's not the way. You're still gonna have that puddle in the pipe. You'll still have the potential of it building up and stuff like that. So whenever dealing with a belly, I would always recommend it has to be dug up and regraded, and that is the way to take away a belly. So we're at 7:55. This next section is talking about using a packing system in grouting. But we don't use this process. We do have a point repair system that we use here, but we're probably going to skip through that. And that is the end of the chapter here. And we'll be moving on to chapter 5 next week, which will take us into, I think it's, hold on. I think the next section is, septic tanks. So we're going to move into septic tank systems on the next one. And then we can also, and then the one after that is interceptors that'll talk about. So hopefully we can get these 2 chapters done in the next 2 classes, which will talk about grease traps, your septic tanks, cesspools, and stuff like that.
Josh,
Yes.
Brandon R says keto helps with bellies.
It does. It does.
That was funny.
Seems temporary.
Yeah. Hey, the COVID shot can help with bellies, huh, Connie?
Oh yeah, still temporary.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, I got a quick announcement. Preston Gannon was awarded housing. Preston, give a little blurb on that. Where you at? Ground, it's a celebration. One of the boys made it. Unmute.
Yeah, housing is possible on Maui.
Yeah.
You can win the lottery though.
Yeah, he entered this thing and it was a bunch of work for him. But so when is it going to be built? When is it? Well, what's the deal?
Probably in a year. It'll be built in a year.
How many people got awarded? What was the criteria?
It was just you had to be employed, live in the county. You can't move for 10 years. I think they were targeting probably, professionals or people within a median range to build communities in our islands. So I think it's good. I mean, there's a bunch of us that are looking for houses and stuff. So don't give up, don't stop. You got to go through different avenues, but it's possible. Definitely possible. It's gonna be upcountry Hali'imaile.
Oh.
Yeah. But there's maybe 3 or 4 other lottery style developments that are going on right now in Maui. So something to look out for and apply, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, I want to encourage that. You guys are making good money. You have the ability to, get something. I know it's tricky right now with the way things are. Everybody's seeing some crazy shit right now. But don't give up. There's always a way, look for the avenues, and dig around, go in areas where maybe nobody's looking. I mean, look, he probably just told a lot of you guys something nobody even heard of. Somehow he heard about it. We got to do our homework. We got to push and don't give up. Go get your dream.
Yeah, it's possible.
All right, on. Congratulations, Preston.
Yeah, thank you.
Now I know I can go sleep over on the weekends. All right, on, boys. Everybody have a great day, and we will see you Thursday, Connie. All right, Connie, Thursday. We'll see you guys. Then.
Thanks, Josh.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Shoots.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.